I've talked about this book before, and I'm going to suggest that you read it. And it's called The Goal by Eliayahu Goldratt. And I think it's a must read for information marketers. The Goal. Now, what I will say to you is, you listen to it the first time. First of all, you're going to be able. It's an easy read, right? It could go right over your head the first time. It did over mine, right? It went right over my head. It's an easy read, so you'll enjoy reading it. But the person who wrote it was a rocket scientist, literally. He looked at how people were running their plant, and basically in the book, the plant struggled to make money. And they paid a lot of money for software that was supposed to make them more efficient. Right? Sound familiar? What they did was, it actually, when they got the software and they started using it and they got trained on it, they started putting it in their business, it caused them to get less done. Right? Years after they bought the software. When that happens, guess what happened? Their inventory piled up. Right? So they had all this inventory that they never put into motion because they bought the thing that was supposed to make them better. They bought the thing that was supposed to make them more efficient. Inventory is the least expensive thing and the most needful to buy. Right? You need inventory, right? You need content. You need stuff to help you to put the stuff together. So listen, inventory is probably the one thing we can't stop buying. And that was the problem with this business. They couldn't stop buying the inventory because they needed it in order to make stuff for sale. Right? And so because they were buying the inventory, but they couldn't get it into motion, they couldn't even get the product up to the point where they could ask for the sale, because they couldn't get it in front of anybody because their tool made them so inefficient. Now, let me tell you what that means. Here's a parallel to information marketing. You go buy a new tool. Guess what? That tool is going to take time to learn, even if it works perfectly. The point isn't, right, whether or not it works. Right? And I think, and so many times, what we're asking people about when we go and we're asking people for advice when we buy a tool is whether or not it works. That's not the point. Yes, it should work. If it doesn't work, you're going to get a refund. That's not the point. The point isn't whether or not it works. The point is, first, do you have time to learn what it does so it fits into your business? Do you have time to do that? Most of the time, the answer to that question really depends on where you are. And most of us, right, at every particular time when we buy stuff, we don't ask ourselves that question. The other thing is true when we're going to get into a new method. Do we have time to learn the method and have it take away from us finishing our project? Do we have time for that? It takes time to learn new things and explore it. Sometimes we learn a new method, you got to get a new tool, and then you've got to learn something else, which adds onto your time. And what happens is we can't figure out why we're not finishing anything. It's really because, again, we have a natural inclination, right, to buy things for a business and not for our trade. Now, the method may or may not work for us, right? And then, so here's what happened, and you tell me if this is you, right? I can tell you it probably affects all of us at some point. I have graphics and PLR inventory piled up in your hard drive, right? It's inventory. So all your inventory is piling up, not doing anything, not going anywhere, not being used, right? It's not so much. Right? It's not so much because of the inventory. The problem isn't the inventory. The problem is the project. The problem is the project. Now, the most needful and easiest thing to buy in order to have enough to resell to add value to your offer. So let's say, you know what? You say now, I don't buy PLR to create my own product. But guess what? If you want to add value to what you're trying to offer, PLR is the easiest, the most inexpensive way for you to add value to it. Right? So when you get the chance to get it, you need to get it and add it to your offers. But you don't want to get it, have it piling up. Now, here's what the theory of constraints says. And this is what the goal was about. We have to eliminate weaknesses and constraints, not build a business. Right? So let me tell you what I mean by that. Dr. Goldratt said that you need to buy technology to eliminate a weakness. I'm going to say that again so that you make sure that you get it. You buy technology to eliminate your weakness and the weakness that you find out about when you try to finish a project. So if you haven't followed anything through all the way to the point where you're trying to finish something, you don't know what your weaknesses are. When you get to the point where you find out what a weakness is, you buy in order to fix it. Does that make sense? So let me say, I'm going to add on to that. The same is true for your tools and your training. You were trying to finish a project in order to generate a profit. You hit the point where there's something where you cannot do or you cannot effectively do in order to finish. You then go and look for the tools or the training in order to eliminate your weakness. That is the theoretical way in which you and I need to buy. Right, but again, it starts with the project. And you might say, no, you know what, but no, we can't do that because that's focusing on the negative. Actually, what it's going to do, it's going to save you time. It's going to save you money if you do it this way, and it's going to save you your effort. Why do I say that? Because it is the project that shows us where we're deficient and what we need to buy. Right? The project. You have to make the project your boss. The project is your boss. The project is your coach. Now again, I'm not saying don't go get a coach. I'm not saying don't go get somebody to train you. I'm saying that at some point in what you're doing in your internet marketing life, you have to make a project your dictator and your coach. And once we get on a project and we keep hitting the wall, we need to keep making those purchases, even if they aren't on sale, until we're at the point in our project where we're asking for the sale. Right? It really is that simple, because otherwise we never even find out whether or not something works or not. And here's the thing about buying tools, about buying technical training, about buying things. One size does not fit all. Right? It just doesn't. So in other words, I can buy something, for example, you can use, some marketers use optimized press to build their pages. Right? They do. And it has nothing to do with whether or not ClickFunnels is easier. Has nothing to do with whether or not, Converty or any of these other things. They could be wonderful. That's not the point. The point is when you get something that's working and it works, you keep working it until you hit a wall where you can't move forward, and then you go and buy something else to fix that, unless it doesn't help you to finish a project. Right? And so again, the mindset has to be, I'm going to buy to finish this. And so it might mean you might need to buy some labor, some training, some team members. You might need to buy something that's going to be a little more expensive than you like to buy it. But what does it matter if you finish a project? If you buy something really expensive that's not on sale, that you wish you'd have bought at the launch price, but you weren't ready for it, but you buy it and you finish something, and that leads to your making money, what does it matter? Right? Human nature is this, and this is what we all do. We quit the process and move on to something else. Say, you know what? This sucks. I'm tired of this. I'm going to get, here's a new method. And so we move on to something else. Right? That's what happens. And effectively, we don't finish anything not because we're bad people, not because of shiny object syndrome. It's really because sometimes we're just thinking about things in the wrong way. Sometimes we don't really have the resource. We're not finishing anything because the project is not a boss. Now, okay, so each completed project will tell you which trade you want to focus on, right? Each completed project. The only thing that can tell you what you need to do is a finished project. That's the only thing that's going to tell you. Like, I can't tell you what you need. So if you came to me, you asked me, what do I need from me? What kind of tools do I need? That's not going to tell me that. I can't tell you that, because my list is going to be different from everybody else's, right? You're going to get 10 lists about stuff you need. What does that matter? All that really matters is you're trying to finish a project. And when you get to a point and you hit the wall, you go buy it, right? Doesn't matter, right? You got to finish it. Without a finished project, you can't even tell what your constraints are. See, this is the theory of constraints. you have to figure out what your constraints are. You don't know what your constraints are until you try to finish something. You don't know what your knowledge deficiency is. You don't know what your tools deficiency is. You don't know whether or not you actually need to go get somebody because the tools and the training are not going to do it for you. Because when you get to the point where you can't buy a tool and you can't train and you don't have the time to do it, you have to figure out how to either partner up with somebody, or you got to figure out how to buy some labor, buy some outsourcing or some freelancing. Now, without knowing your constraints, you're probably buying all the wrong things. I can tell you that for a fact. And it won't matter whether you use them or not, whether you could have had something better or not. It won't matter. Do you need to get new training right now to finish something you're trying to do? Right? That's a question, right? You got to answer that. You have to answer that for yourself. Do you need to get new tools to finish a project right now? Do you need to get somebody? Do you need to buy some outsourcing to finish a project that's going to lead to you making money, or at least you asking for the sale? Sometimes what happens is we run out of resources because we've already spent everything to build our business, so to speak. Right? So in other words, if you buy enough things that you will eventually need in your business, because all businesses have these things that we go buy, then what happens is we don't have the money that we need in order to buy the stuff to finish the project we're working on. And that is really what interferes in this process and gets in the way. Now, we're not going to always have the tools that we need to finish our trade if we're buying stuff for a business. And so I really want to encourage you to start thinking about the trades you need to develop in order to finish it. Listen, if your business model right now, if you're working on being a Kindle marketer, what do you need to write Kindle books and get them up for sale? What do you need to finish? Do you need to go get some training? Need to go get some graphics? Do you need to go get an outsourcer? What do you need to do to finish it? Then listen, put all the other stuff aside. Keep buying your inventory naturally. But because again, so what I mean by inventory, if you don't know everything there is to know, you're going to write a book on Facebook, then that's what you use your PLR for. Right? You get this stuff because it's inventory. It's stuff you're supposed to put in motion. It's stuff you're supposed to use in order to get to the point where you're asking somebody for some money or for the sale. But we will never get to that point. We will never get to that point until we work on finishing the project. Right? Okay. So any questions on anything that I've talked about? Again, it's a little different. It's a little different. But I wanted to cover this because I felt like I need to cover the why and the how in terms of how you make decisions about how you decide what you're going to buy. Right? What is an I Am Technical Kickstart? It is a way of thinking about the trade instead of the business.